everybody. So many months ago, I made a video about how I was recognizing that I still was experiencing some PTSD that was feeling stored in my body. And I really started to get into some somatic practices. And when I talked about that dance party in last video, dancing has been one of the biggest ways to move some of the stuck energy from my body. And honestly, in the past few months, I have felt less triggered and really didn't think that I was having many experiences of any PTSD. I wasn't having anxiety or dreams or anything along those lines. And it took my dog, my sweet little Marlo girl, having a bit of a traumatic episode on Friday for it all to come back up. So, let me give you a bit of a story as to what that is and some of my process. So Marlo, my sweet little lab, was my wedding gift from Steve. When Steve got diagnosed with ALS, proposed to me 2 days later, we got married 2 months later, big whirlwind of everything. The one reality he was sure of was that I was going to need support, and as much as possible. And so he got me Marlo because he thought, what better thing to have than a dog to come bring comfort? Although her initial puppy stage was less than comforting, she eventually became the best dog who was so in tune to me that she knew every time I was having a panic attack, every time that I was angry or anxious or sad, and she would lay with Steve during wound care, which was incredibly painful for him. And she would just lay her head on the pillow where his head was resting as he was turned and wouldn't move until he was done. And she just has been the most beautiful creature. And then I take her to work now, and I'll have clients start to panic and she'll jump up with them. Or I had one of my clients just kind of hyperventilating, crying. Marlo jumped up and kind of like wrapped her body around her to give her a hug. Of course, I always check in with the clients and say, is that okay? And they're like, yes, please, we need it. So she has been therapying everyone her whole life. So when she had a seizure on Friday, I freaked out, rushed her to the emergency vet. Thankfully, she's okay right now. She is stabilized, but she's got a lot going on. She's an old lady, and really, I just got to be grateful for every day she has, because there's a lot of organ failure happening at the same time. And as much as I'm going to change things that she eats and regimens to keep her alive as long as possible and comfortable as long as possible, I'm not in denial of the fact that my dog's dying, but she's also living right now. And that's something ALS taught me, was that I was always like, yes, my husband's dying, but he's also living, so let's treat him that way. And I very much so feel like that with Marlo, is that yes, I do get bogged down with the sadness and the reality of it, and it all just hits me sometimes, but then I also return back to how grateful I am that she's here right now. So something interesting happened though when we were in the animal hospital. The vet came out and said, we're pretty concerned about her labored breathing. Instantly, I was back in the hospital with the 30 or 40 different times a doctor told me, we're pretty concerned about Steve's labored breathing. His lungs aren't doing well. His infections are too bad. Like, this is the end. How many times the doctor tried to convince me that it wasn't that it was the end. Thankfully, to be just proven that it wasn't going to be the end until Steve decided so. And I was just right back in that situation of feeling like, what do you mean? Labored breathing and this could be the end. I'm not ready, right? And I'll never be ready for Marlo leaving, just like I was never ready for Steve leaving. And in many ways, Steve set Marlo up, because he said to her when he knew he was running out of time one day, he was like, you better live as long as possible and help her get through me dying. And she's done that. April will be 4 years since I lost Steve, and Marlo has been there through all of the changes I have made, all of the great expansions. And this year, 2024, being one of the biggest change years that I am traversing, as it's all to be playing out still, she has been right beside me even more now, because she's with me 24/7 since I take her everywhere I go now. And just interesting in the way that immediately I was taken back to those days of Steve and the uncertainty of it all. And I think even I, who try so hard to embody this idea of impermanence and the idea that we never know how many days we get to be here on earth. We never know when it's going to be our loved ones' last days. We never know when it's going to be our last days, and how important it is to live in reverence of every day, and how important it is to live in reverence of our health and to do anything we can for our health. And it's just a poignant reminder that, living in the moment is the only thing you can do. And so trying not to get ahead of myself with Marlo, because now she's back to stability, is going to be the most important thing for me. So this concept of living in the moment is something that isn't new, but I sometimes think that having this conceptualized viewpoint of it can really help you absorb what really it means. Because the moment, there's this moment, then there's the future, then there's the past. And so the ways I've been able to tune in with how I feel is that when I'm anxious, it's because I'm living in the future. It's because I am worrying about, is my dog gonna have another seizure? Is her congestive heart failure gonna take over one day? Am I gonna wake up and she's not here? And then I'm sad because I'm living in this past of, oh, she can't do what she once did, or the past of maybe not being able to have as much freedom with her because of her limitations. But this present moment, when I'm living in the fact that she is well right now and she's alive and she's stable, that makes me feel so grateful. And that makes me feel so much peace and joy. And so it's really important to start to pay attention to our feelings, not in a way to invalidate them, but to question them, because I think sometimes our feelings are information. So when I'm starting to feel anxious, I can say, am I living in the moment right now? Or am I forward projecting? And this goes beyond just with Marlo, because my whole 2024 is basically needing to play out a certain way that I can sense that when I'm feeling anxiety, it's because I'm thinking too far ahead instead of just being in this moment right now, because this moment is the only one that I'm in. It's the only one that I have any control over. It's the only one that I can put any of my intention into. And yeah, I love to visualize, meditate my future. I love it. It's my favorite way to go to sleep. I listened to this whole guided meditation from Bob Proctor, who I love this meditation so much. I've been listening to it every day for 2 months. I cannot recommend it enough. And he just guides you through this visualization, and then I sort of end it and just let my brain dream. And I love that. But it has to be grounded in reality as well. And it has to be grounded in the fact that I'm showing up every day in my present moment fully. I am in every single minute of my days instead of being way in the future or distracted by the past. And so this mindfulness of like, okay, am I living in this present moment, is going to be so important for me. And this whole event is such an important reminder, because it was something I had to do with Steve often. I would start to have anticipatory grief with him all the time because I just knew the inevitability was that one day he wasn't going to be here. And it comes with Marlo too. There's often times where I'll just like have a good cry because I'm like, oh, I'm going to not have my dog one day. But what's really important is that I always bring myself back to the moment. Like right now she's here. And right now her and I are both healthy and happy and at peace. And she's snoozing peacefully and I'm making a YouTube video, So let this, that came as a really big reminder for me to do all of my practices to stay in the present moment, be a reminder for y'all. And if you have a tendency to, like when you start to have anxiety, you disassociate, so you kind of leave your body a little bit and you don't really feel like you have full control over where your mind goes. One of my biggest practices is to say, like, I'm in my body. It's safe to be in my body. I'm here. I'm in this present moment. It's safe to be in this present moment. I'm here. I observe my surroundings, put my feet on the ground, and I'm really like, sometimes I'll do a little stomping just to be like, no, I want to be in my body. I do a lot of breathing. I do a lot of focusing, and then go into being grateful for whatever's going on in this moment and just really trying to bring my focus back into it. There's sometimes where I can imagine myself being like this little balloon that's just like flying away from me, and I'm like, no, get back here, come on, no, we gotta stay down here, and I'm like tying it to a mailbox so people find my house for a party. I don't know, sorry, I had to go there. But what's important though is that as many times as you get away from yourself, is that you have the gentle practice of bringing yourself in without shame. Shaming yourself for disassociating or for going too far in the future or for being stuck in the past, that's not helpful. Shame is the least helpful, keeps you stuck. But instead, it's just a reframe, just a refocus, just a, you know what, things are okay right now. And I have some friends who do a really good job with that for me. So when I'm struggling to do it for myself, I reach out to them and I'm like, hey, I'm sort of forward thinking right now. I'm panicking and I would love for you to remind me to stay in the moment. And I have a friend that specifically, whenever I'm like worried about something with Marlo, he always says to me, she's alive right now. And I'm like, thank you. It's everything I needed to know. Like I needed to hear. And so, yeah, it's not to deny what we know is coming because none of us are getting out of here alive, but to instead just remain so much in your present moment that you soak up every delicious piece of it. And yeah, this was a really big reminder to me to make sure that I'm keeping myself in check, which is going to be lots of meditating and lots of holding myself accountable and lots of reframing and lots of rewiring neural pathways, because we can do that with constant, like, oh, wait, let's not go this way. Come on. It's kind of like training a little puppy. You're just training your brain to constantly shift back to what is in the moment instead of too forward thinking. I hope this helps someone. And thank you all for caring about my dog. Thankfully, she's okay. And I'm going to enjoy every minute that she is. And I'm going to enjoy every minute of today that I get to spend creating and playing before I go back to my work week.